my presentation is essentially on, and the title of it is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The title from that movie, I'm sure you've all heard of it, may have seen it, the guy should have seen it. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And what we're talking about is the youth. So, it says up there, what do we know? Well, we know that Somalia is an unmitigated disaster on every level. It's a self-sustaining, chaotic social political reality, so it's chaotic, and resulting in a complete dismantling of society's norms, which is what, if it bleeds, it leads. And as a result, the state of the diaspora, that's all of us, is confused, leaderless, really, right? And, at best, may retain a unique identity for one more generation, which is why the youth initiative is so important. Earlier, you were talking about language and how it's the gateway to a culture. If you lose a language, that gateway slowly gets closed. So at best, the diaspora, whether you're in the UK, in the US, Canada, Australia, throughout Europe, or even in Kenya, at best, one generation removed. So what does that tell you? Well, how does this connect to the youth, first of all? Think about it. How does that connect to the youth? Well, because you are that generation. Remember that one more generation I just said a second ago? You're it. Will your children speak Somali? Do you speak Somali? Will your children care about the diaspora? Forget Somalia proper. Will they care about the diaspora? And really, sort of, this whole one generation business, how does that lead to my topic of the good, the bad, and the ugly? So let me connect some dots and kind of give you a visual story. Stay with me. Let's say, for example, you have a playground, all right? Camera zoomed in on this one child, and this isn't to say that Somali people are children. This isn't to say that since you are the youth, that you are children. It's just the analogy that I want to sort of carry out. You have a child in the playground, the camera zoomed in on that child. The camera zooms out just a little bit, just in time as you see another one coming to assault him, hit him. Just then the camera continues to zoom out, and you see yet another child looking at this happening, but either too afraid to do anything or so shocked, how could this happen? So the other the child is frozen. Goodness. Camera continues to zoom out, and you see another child sitting, let's say, on top of the slide, sort of with a high-level vantage point. And this child, when you see him, you can see clearly that he saw that one kid walk across the playground, past the one sitting down, to hit that other one. So that one was sitting there as well. Back to my good, bad, ugly. There are three other groups that I'm not going to discuss and I'm going to identify now, but I'm going to go back to the good, the bad, and the ugly. The other one is, since you're in the school playground, the school security. Right? They're just outside, and the camera continues to zoom out, and just as you pass by the kid on the slide, you see the campus security running over there to fix the situation. The camera continues to come out, and you look at the building, and you see the teachers and the principal looking out the window with a completely high vantage point, and they can see what's happening. The camera continues to zoom out, but there are a group of people or someone or something that it'll never catch. We're talking about media, right? Because media caught the actual strike and people around it. In that immediate visit, bleeds, it leads. It caught the blood, it caught the strike. Last, those are hidden from the camera. They're the ones who've instructed or informed or convinced somehow that one child that walked across the playground on his way to strike that other child, that he can get away with it with impunity. So identified quickly, just sort of shorthand, the groups that I'm not going to discuss, but who are present in my storyline. I think the Imam earlier was saying you got a visionary and someone who's insane, They both see something that isn't there. If I'm off the stage and I'm insane, I apologize. SubhanAllah, Yusuf Du'ay. So victim. Who knows who the victim was? The victim is easy to identify in that situation, correct? Oh, come on. You guys awake? Who knows who the victim was? Huh? No, my scenario. Did I say anything about Somali people? Huh? I see a hand. The young child, absolutely, who was hit. Now, by the way, all these children are the same age. All right? So they can be 10 and they can be 20 or 15, whatever you want to call it. Now, who was the bully? We know who that is, right? And we know who the bystander was. That's that one that was closest to the hit. And we know who the witness was. That's the one, the big vantage point. So, from my sort of element of it, how do we identify them in the good, the bad, and the ugly? Well, the bully would be the ugly. That's easy enough, right? Because he actually did the strike. Agreed? Anybody disagree? No. Who is the bystander? Would the bystander be the bad or the good? The bad, why? I can't hear at all. I must be old. Yes? They didn't do anything. They didn't even warn the other kid, right? Duck. Run. All right, what about the witness? Are they the bad? Are they the ugly? Are they the good? They're the what? Well, you got to raise your hand here. This is, anyone over here? Yes? Brown hijab. You raise your hand. Is that brown? The good? Wrong. The bad. They saw it happen. Clear vantage point. Clear vantage point. Saw it happen. So the victim, is the victim the good? In this scenario, is the victim the good? We'll revisit that. I think something is wrong with my PowerPoint. All right. So there's a saying, I'm sure you all heard it. It takes an old man to declare a war and a young man to fight and die in it, right? So if it leads, it bleeds. The one causing the bleeding is young, and this is how I'm going to tie it to you guys. It is your age group. It's your age group. What do I mean by you? I mean anywhere from a teenager to 25, 26. That is the person causing all the pain. You guys agree? Anyone disagree? So the ugly, easy to identify, the young Somali, or as it turns out these days, non-Somali fighters, who are fighting to kill Somalis at the behest, direction, and tutelage of old men. And the last little bit is mine, my editorial, who have neither the courage nor the leadership capacity to win a war. Simple point. Fine, I'm the general, I'm not going to be the foot soldier. Great. Well, draw up a plan that we can win. All you keep doing is giving us plans that lead us right back to where we were. So you have distinctly different groups, same methodology, same tactics, same delivery mechanisms, same press releases, same youth carrying out same attacks, had the silly notion that somehow this unintelligible level, unsophisticated level of violence is somehow going to win something. Idiotic. The bad. So those in Somalia that are watching these things unfold and are unable. Why are they bad if they're unable? Because they're sitting on their hands. When a baby is born, the first thing it can do is go, wah, scream. First thing it can do. Doesn't mean he doesn't get hand-eye coordination. He doesn't get eye coordination for a long time. Forget hands. But the first thing a baby does, vocalize. Goodness, even monkeys vocalize. So they are unable, that inability that has somehow frozen them, puts them in the bad category, or unwilling to do anything about it, which is even worse. Right? Or even worse than that, they act as surrogates. Right? Maybe they're sitting next to the person and they say, there she is right here, right here, right here. Right? They act as surrogates. Bad. This is my witness with the Vantage Point. And those who live outside of Somalia are actually able to see what's happening. Just because you're here does not mean you're blind. Does not mean that you're blind. You can see it from a safe distance and yet fail to do anything, or worse again, act as surrogates. And those are the worst of the worst, isn't it? You live comfortably in Virginia, but you are doing the points, the press releases for somebody committing atrocities that, and then again, who's the victim? Are they bad, ugly, or good? Or can anyone tell me who they are? The question that I'm not really asking, or we're not asking ourselves is, who's suffering? Actually, I said it backwards. My own question, I said it backwards. The question we're asking is who's suffering. What we're not asking is what is being lost in all of this. In this silly cycle, what's being lost? An easy answer is a generation. Who's a generation? You. It's this generation that's being lost. That's who's being lost. Now you can think of it as something jovial, you can think of it as something fun, or you can think of it as sort of an academic exercise. It is not an academic exercise. It is not an academic exercise. And the minute you think that it is, you have failed in whatever objective that you were going to take on. It is a life or death, but more than that, it is an element of erasing an entire society. So don't be fooled. There is a fight. There is a fight, and you are the target. You, as in this age group, whether you're in the U.S., whether you are in the U.K., and so forth. And really, you're the target, you're the prey, and the hunter is intent in keeping the status quo. So if you are running around in North America, Canada, Europe, pretending to be unaware of what's happening in Somalia, you're worse than the victim. Because you're not unaware. You have access to all kinds of news. If you're speaking, now this is maybe a hit on some of you, and I apologize, but if you are speaking broken English, you don't matter. You don't. How are you going to convince anyone? It would be a shameful thing if you cannot speak Somali and then expect to have been able to formulate an idea to convince people. If you're convincing your age group and your generation, you had better speak English well, and you had better speak Somali well, and if they're in France, you better speak French well. Otherwise, how can you intelligently move it along? You don't count at that point. If you're the smartest person on the planet and you cannot communicate it, does it matter? You have agreed to become the victim, in a sense. You've taken on the emotional baggage of the victim. If you've decided, the only thing I'm going to do is ignore it, you have taken on the emotional baggage of the victim. Now the question that, again, going back to it, who is the good? These young fellows right here, that's the good. I'm going to point to them so you guys can talk to them individually at break time. Talk to them, see what they're doing. There were some young people at last year's program that were funding a hospital and schools directly in Somalia. That's the good. But if you think for a second that I'm going to sort of have Google News or Yahoo News to tell me what's happening in Somalia, and you know I'm going to ignore it, you are the victim. You've decided to become the victim. because that news will assault your sensibilities. You have agreed to take on the baggage. So this is a challenge for you and anyone that can hear me, for all of us. Do you want to be the bully, the ugly in this scenario? Do you want to be the bad, the bystander, the witness? Somehow by inactivity or even action contributing to it? Do you want to be the victim and just take it? Just take it. Whether it's actual or sort of emotional. Or have you decided to become the good? The good's very easy. The good's very easy. It's the easiest one. Because you're going to do what comes instinctively. If you literally go to a playground anywhere in any country, you have a bunch of kids playing, and a kid gets hit, literal playground, something happens to a child, and the adult comes and says, what happened? He did it. When did we lose that? Did we become numb to the violence? That's your challenge. So next year's session, there had better be hundreds of young people wanting to do presentations, showing us that they've done something. There have to be so many people, we have to extend this thing to a week. If that doesn't happen, anyone who has heard this has failed. That's my challenge to you. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khairan.